Good evening. It's really a pleasure to be here, and I'm really, really honored to have a chance to give a keynote speech. I think in this talk I will cover two different areas of our research, and somehow those areas will be represented in tomorrow and day after tomorrow in different discussions. And first one, we'll cover the issues of mapping and quantifying political information warfare. Another one will be more related to kind of similar issue, but more from the perspective of the algorithms. And so we will cover this kind of two different areas. And first, a bit about like what I'm doing and where I'm coming from. So this is probably going to be a bit different than the rest of the talks, because even I'm a professor at the university, this research that I'm going to present never meant to be academic research. It was just some kind of like really personal exploration that took me and one little team around me for the last few years through some really dark places of the internet. So what we were doing in the last few years, we were like exploring different kind of black boxes. Okay. And there are like, when we are speaking about the internet, everything is about black boxes. We tend to speak about cloud, we tend to speak about some kind of ephemeral, abstract things, but most of the time we have no idea what we are speaking about. Because most of the internet is kind of invisible. And we like to think that we are basically exploring different forms of invisibility and different forms of mostly invisible infrastructures that are beneath the surface of the internet. But this first part of the research, it's mostly around what's going on the surface. So this is kind of visible. So I would start with this quote. Throughout the history, communication and information have been fundamental sources of power and counterpower, of domination and social change. This is because the fundamental battle being fought in society is the battle over the minds of the people. The way people think determines the fate of norms and values on which societies are constructed. So those sentences are by Manuel Castells, and I think they really present one really important part of this research, and this is like this battle over the minds of the people. And we will try to see on one case that is mostly local, it's mostly related to Serbia, but I think the shape of this, of how those like minds of the people are being like shaped and how they're like basically attacked is similar in all other countries. So, according to the media theorist Douglas Rushkoff, we live in the age of the present shock. Most of the information we get from the multiple sources simultaneously at lightning speed. It's so temporal it gets stale by the time it reaches us. Everything is live, real time, and always on. This is why narrative structure collapsed into a new, never-ending reality show. So, we wanted to explore this reality show that is happening to us all the time. So, online media, Twitter, all of those informations that we are basically surrounded on daily basis, this is something that we wanted to explore, how it looks like. And it was like elections in Serbia, and we set up some kind of trap. So what we did, we basically made different forms of data gathering. So we scraped all the websites, I think like 10 biggest websites in Serbia. But we scraped the content, we scraped the comments, votes, everything. And we also did something similar to social media websites such as Facebook and Twitter. So we were collecting all of those information. What we wanted to see is really to try to visualize and try to understand all of those things that we somehow felt that is happening to us. So you feel that you are all the time kind of disinformed by different people. You feel this army of trolls. You feel all of this, but basically it's really hard to catch all of this. So we set up a few traps and started to collect data. And so first thing that really went, so we are trying now to explain how this reality show looks like. So it's happening really fast. So basically the lifespan of one news is somewhere around 1 to 2 hours. So just in first 1 or 2 hours, and news is being discussed, news is being commented. So it's happening really, really fast. But then we try to understand, so this kind of spectacle, these flickering images that are happening to us all the time, who is the main actor of that reality show? And somehow there is just one man, according to our data, and that man is now the president of Serbia. Okay. It was like kind of, he was like prime minister at that time. So we understood like it's kind of one-man show. But also what was really important to us, analyzing the content of the news that we gather, it's also about one city. So it's just about Belgrade. And I'm not coming from Belgrade, so for me it was kind of offending as well. But there are also, then we tried to gather data about like sources of those news. And then we realized, so here you can see like this black part, those are 3 black parts are 3 different news agencies. And only this little gray part here, okay, white on the screen, this is something that it's called original content. So basically all of this, like this reality show, it's basically about one guy in one place, and all of those news that we analyze are coming just from few sources. So that's about democracy, that's about things. And then, so oldest and most direct form of media politics are propaganda and control. So on one side we have propaganda. So what is propaganda? Fabrication and diffusion of messages that distort facts and induce misinformation for the purpose of advancing government interest. Okay, here, government. So on the other side we have a censorship, control. Censorship of any message deemed to undermine these interests, if necessary, by criminalizing unhindered communication and prosecuting the messenger. So those are kind of 2 different tactics. On one side, propaganda, on the other side, control. Now we will go more into propaganda. So this is the same guy, the ex-prime minister, now president. He is saving the kid in one snowstorm in Serbia. So there is like snowstorm, the cars are waiting, and then the helicopter arrives, the prime minister is jumping out from the helicopter, coming to one vehicle, taking out the kid and bringing him to the helicopter. And somehow in that moment there was like 5 or 10 different cameras around him in the snowstorm. You know? And what happened after? And then people like start to make fun, like always on the internet, because there was this video, and then he was called Superman, and people were like having a lot of fun explaining this event. But then somehow all of those videos started to disappear. And this is that was our first case. So we set up this foundation a few months before, but we were not thinking that we will have so much job, you know. We were thinking like we will do some kind of academic, slow kind of thingies. But somehow, because we had a team of lawyers, mostly related to internet, cyber forensic, media theorists, somehow we get this first case and we started to investigate. And then from that moment, for the next few years, we had really hundreds and hundreds of cases that we were dealing with. And so when we are speaking about news, there are kind of like 3 main battlefields there. So there is a content field, there is comment field, and there are votes. Content, I spoke a bit about that. So there is like hyper production of content. In a way, it's so big hyper production that you cannot, deal with that. And this is the battle between like journalists and investigative journalists, for example, because they need like time, they need months and years to analyze something. But even when they publish something, they became a part of these few seconds, So we realized, watching this data, that there is a lot of strange thing happening in the comment section and vote section. So who was behind that? So in Serbia, there are really a lot of kind of intrusion of online sphere by different trolls and different troll armies. And there is one related to the ruling party. There is one that is really strong. And you can really feel by reading all of those comments that they are all the time there. What they are doing, they use different kind of anonymization tools, basically to change their names, to do like multiple voting all the time. But what is really funny in that case is that this is completely, there is some kind of form of gamification in it. Because the point is that they are by doing that, they are getting some points. So it's an online platform, they're accessing the online platform, and there were some leaks, and we were able to see this platform, how it looks like. So they are getting points. If you are commenting on like opposition news media, you are getting more points than if you are commenting on the on the position online media, so on, so on. So basically this kind of trolling, it's transformed into a game. And this is really, really interesting. And what is the price? They are most of the time not paid for doing that. The price is that and this is what we are suspecting, it's that you have a chance to get a job. Because in Serbia, it's like really, there are a lot of unemployed people, and main political party have access to this kind of companies that are governed by the government. So this is the chance to get a job. And then we try to make some kind of quantification models for seeing all of those things. And this is one of my favorite drawings. It shows like thousands and thousands of 105,000 different comments. And basically what we try to spot there are those comments that are repeating, because all of those trolls or those people, they're making mistakes. So they're copying and pasting the same comment on multiple places. So we were tracking those moments, and we were able to identify those cases of comments being copied and pasted. And that was like first step of understanding who they are. And when we were like reading the style of how they were commenting and how they were doing that, there were kind of two main styles of that. The first one, it's like really kind of popular, we like to call it like a Russian style. Another one is more Chinese style. So what is the difference? Russian style, it's more kind of hardcore. So, and there is one really interesting manual by Alexander Dugin. So he's some kind of Russian right-wing political scientist. And probably you will recognize this. For example, they call us patriots, and we in response use the terms liberals and Westerners. If those who are not us call us nationalists, communists, Soviet, then our response will be agent of US influence and the fifth column. If they use the term Nazi or Stalinist, or cold-blooded response should be spy, traitor, how much did the CIA pay you? Or debt to spies. So this is like also like that was kind of like really style that can be recognized also in the comments that we were researching. On the other side, the Chinese style, it's much more, positive in a way. But, so, China's government have long been suspected of hiring as many as 2 million people to insert huge numbers of pseudonyms and other descriptive writings into the stream of real social media posts. So it's a huge army of people doing this. But the style of Chinese style, it's more, in a way, like positive. It's more like cheerleading. So it's more like life is good, party is good, our leader is great, you know. So, and in our comments that we were like researching, there was like both of those styles. And then on the side of voting, so when you have like news, and then you have a comment, and then you have votes. Like voting is this comment up and down. That was a place for us to try to understand some anomalies. And so, for example, then we found some articles that have 48,000 votes, like pluses on one article, or minuses. And what was like really interesting for us, what we were trying basically to feel how those armies of trolls are moving through the internet, because they have a plan, they have a path. And then if you are collecting all the votes, you are able to understand where they are in this moment, because you'd see their footprint. So we were able to track somehow their movement through this online sphere. But what is the point of all of that? So on one side, it's mostly like about conquering spaces of public discussion. So first you are creating a noise. So when you have like multiple fake players in the public discussion, they are creating a discourse filled with the noise where real public opinions are being flooded, lost in the mirror maze of the artificially created and orchestrated political statements. So when you are flooding like comments or news with the fake comments, in that moment the reader cannot understand what is fake, what is real. And you have completely distorted idea about public opinion, about reality, no? So on the other side, because as we said, there are like these two models, the one positive leader is great, but another one it's kind of aggressive. And because there are people who are like intentionally going around and attacking people from like another political views, this is forming some kind of chilling effect on public participation in online discussion. Because if you're attacked once, twice, third time, you really will think fourth time, are you going to discuss about something or not? So then on the other side, we have control. And this is like some kind of more, not more serious, because I think also propaganda is really serious thing, but control is mostly done through the internet infrastructure. So what you can do from the position of power, you can do, for example, internet shutdown. You can disconnect internet, for example, in the country. And this is something that is really happening, not so much in Europe, but mostly in African country. And this is like really popular method in the last few years, mostly in Africa, before elections or some critical moments of like protests and so on. It's just to turn off the internet. Another more subtle way of doing that, it's internet filtering. So internet filtering, what you can do, you can block different websites. You can do packet filtering, for example, like to understand, I don't know, for example, BitTorrent type of content, and then you're blocking just this and so on and so on. There are like different ways how to block website. And then you can do like content takedowns. And this is something that was like really popular in Serbia also as a mean of like political, in this information warfare. It's to misuse notice and take down procedures, mostly on, for example, YouTube. So what you are doing, you have some YouTube video, and then your army of political activists are basically like reporting this video as inappropriate. So for example, we had like situation of that for our commissioner for human rights in Serbia. His video was removed from YouTube because it was inappropriate. So that's kind of strange. But that was a result of misusing those notice and takedown procedures. Another way, and for example, the issue with Superman from the beginning, the president who is saving the kid from the storm, the case was that they use copyright and trademark compliance. So that means that they were saying no one else can copy this video, even it was the video from the public TV. So they take down the video based on the copyright law. And then you can go like even more deeply, and this is like targeted attacks on the individuals. So you can attack individuals on different ways. It can be like malware attack, phishing attack, a lot of different attacks. And we did monitoring on those cases in the last few years, and there are really hundreds of different attacks on the journalists, investigative journalists, bloggers, so on, so on. And this basically our experience of doing this kind of monitoring really opened, for me personally, my eye, because we started to work a lot with investigative journalists, because they were mostly like target of attack. So it give us like chance to spend more time with them, to go on some seminars with them, and to learn different kind of investigative journalism techniques. So what we did, we combined those idea of investigative journalism with idea of technical exploration, data gathering, data analysis, and so on. And then another popular way of attack is DDoS attack, and basically this is the way how you are like, by using some kind of botnets that you can easily pay, you are attacking some website and taking it down. And in the end, also as a method is to arrest someone, and there are a lot of cases of like tens of cases of people being arrested because they said something on Facebook. So, so what we have here as a consequence is like, because it's really strange, when you take down some website, for example, like you DDoS some website, you don't do a lot, because you cannot hide the content. The website, it's down, but in a matter of hours, the website is going to be up. And this is really, it's really hard to do censorship on internet, because like, in moment you take down something, it will appear on other place. And it basically have this kind of Barbara Streisand effect. When you take down something, it will appear on many other places, and people will start to speak about that. So it's not about really taking the content down. It's more about like insecurity and fear, because it's not so nice to be attacked. And it takes you time, it takes you energy to recover. So people will start to think, should they say something or not? Then you have like chilling effect on the general public, because people don't know anymore what is legal, what is not on internet, because people have like different, for most of the people, there is difference, like, you know, in real life you can do that, but you can do that on the internet or not, because people have like idea that it's two separate things, but basically it's the same. But still, those kind of insecurities produce different kind of chilling effects on general public. And at the end, by doing this kind of pressure, you're discouraging public dialogue. No? But so I spoke now about online media, and what is like a battlefield for this informational warfare in online media. But as we all know, the mother of all battlefields out there, it's the social networks. Because most of the time, we are receiving everything through the social network, not directly through individual media. This is our live stream. So we did these different kind of maps in order to kind of visualize different forms of battles that are out there. So for example, here you can see it's also related to elections. you see like a position, it's blue, a position, it's this down, and then you can see different kind of anomalies, different actors that have different roles in this system. So for example, this one here, his role is to attack the yellow ones. This one here, it's some kind of bridge. So you can learn a lot about dynamics of social networks by trying to visualize them. But then what is really interesting, we found in one case, we found like we were analyzing some hashtags related to elections, and then we saw this one that's kind of strange, kind of different than the others. And this one, and what was behind this one, it's artificially created. And this is like new actor that we have now. We had like real political activists, then we had the trolls who are paid in some way to be part of political discussion. But now we have also kind of artificial agents of disinformation warfare. So the role of this one was to create some kind of hashtag and to communicate this hashtag. But it was completely automated. Okay, it was like artificial. So it was like software. And this is something that will appear also in the, I think in the future, it's going to be like more and more interesting, because like we will be surrounded by a lot of different artificial agents in this warfare. Because now we have like, for example, artificial intelligence, different kind of chatting bots that will become part of this discussion. And then it's going to be even more hard to understand what is reality when you don't know with who you are talking with. But I didn't spoke. So I spoke a bit about like technical attacks and technical infrastructure, a bit about army of bots. But one of the main roles in this game have different platforms, and the one that we were kind of specialized in like researching is of course Facebook, because somehow, you know, even you have a political activist of the biggest political party in the country, they're all just on the surface of this kind of algorithmic space that is called Facebook. And they are the ones who are also dealing with something even more powerful. And this what is even more powerful, it's Facebook algorithms. Because at the end, Facebook algorithms will choose what will appear on your newsfeed. So since we are into trying to uncover different black boxes, we did some research that tried basically to understand how different algorithms are shaping this reality that Facebook is projecting to us. And in this case, it was more to understand how our behavior is transformed into profit. Because at the end, even we are speaking about information warfare, this information warfare, it's happening in the shopping mall. Because Facebook, it's one big shopping mall. It's not there for making our democracies better, it's there to earn some money. And it's 18 billion per year. So I will go slowly through this now. So there are some kind of 1.6, that was like in 2015, 1.6 billion active users. So Facebook, this is the size of China, bigger than China. China have 1.3 billion people. It's 5 times bigger than United States and 223 times bigger than Serbia. And it can be how much, like 500 times bigger than Estonia, no? Something like this. So it's probably, if we think about Facebook as a country, it will be the biggest country in the world. So there is 1 billion logins into Facebook every day, 300 petabytes of user data, 1.1 trillion likes since 2004, 4.5 billion likes every day, 3.1 million likes per minute, 17 billion location tag posts every day. 350 million uploaded photos every day, 4.7 billion items shared each day, 10 billion messages sent each day. And somehow all of this is transformed into 17.9 billion dollars each year. So, and just to make a scale, this is like as all people in Serbia are working for 1 year. So, and this is related with something even Trump, even president of Serbia or any other country, he's basically working for Facebook. When he or she or they post something on Facebook, they are working for Facebook. And this is idea that is kind of known in these media theory circles. It was kind of popular in the beginning of 2000. This is this idea of immaterial labor. When you are commenting, doing something, you are performing immaterial work. So, but in case of Facebook, this is 300 million of working hours per day that we are donating to this machine. And then you can try to understand how this machine is functioning by, for example, understanding human structure. And there is like Peter Thiel, Mark Anderson, so on, but it's not kind of important. Or how people, from where the people who are working in Facebook, from where they're coming from, where they study. But for us, it was like also interesting, also for the question of information warfare. It's basically what is happening within those black boxes of the machine. So it's not about people. It's not Mark Zuckerberg or any other human being there who is censoring your picture on a daily basis. Okay, there are some people in Philippines who are doing that, but in most of the cases is like algorithms who are choosing what is going to be shown and what not, and how, and and this is what we were trying to investigate. So you have like a lot of different input into this factory. So it's your action and behavior. So everything you do, you like, share, search, view post, check in, add photos. All of those things are becoming part of this data that they are using. Then there is profile information. Profile information, it's mostly what you think about yourself. And this is not so important for the algorithmic machine, because what you think about yourself can be lie. But what you do, actions and behavior, this is the main source of data for them. Then digital footprint, it's what your devices are saying about you. And for example, by using different applications, we are giving to Facebook permission to use different kind of data. So to view to record audio, to take pictures, to modify, delete content, to read call logs, so on, so on. Or when we are moving around internet, we are stepping on a lot of little bombs, a lot of little emitters that are basically sending information about our movement, online behavior, and it's basically by a network of different cookies that are installed all over the internet. So in the almost 50% of the time, websites that we analyze, there are some Facebook cookies. And on 90% of the website, there are Google cookies. So even you don't use Google, I don't know how, but somehow, even if you don't use Google, on 90% of the time, they have information about what you are visiting. And all of this becomes a resource for on one side, the profit that they are making, but on the other side, all of this becomes data that is part of this algorithmic process of choice of what is going to be seen in your news feed or on your screens. So basically, if we think about all of those websites and content that is being produced, this is, now we are speaking about another one layer up of directing of this real-time theater in some way. Because on one side, we have online media doing their things, creating news, but then, on top of them, you have Facebook and Facebook algorithms that are basically choosing, doing some kind of editing of what is going to be shown in front of you. So, I will not go more into details into this Facebook research, but basically, the problem is that we, and this is also going to be a problem with artificial intelligence and everything, we don't know anything about those black boxes. And then there is no any kind of methodology for us how to investigate them. There is even, and the problem, in order to investigate such a complex algorithmic issues or issues of I don't know, artificial intelligence and all of this, it will take us a lot of resources that I'm not so sure that individual government or governments have compared to Facebook or Google. And for example, there is, I always like to give as an example one event that happened in, I think 2007 or something. And it happened on the stock market in New York, where two different algorithms, because there is something that's called fast frequency trading. So two different algorithms start to mess within each other, and then something broke. And basically all stock market went down in the matter of few seconds. And lots of people lost a lot of money, okay? And then they needed 2 years to investigate what happened during those few seconds. Because our capacity to understand what is happening within the black boxes, it's like really, really limited. And those black boxes are responsible, for example, if you have like a terrorist attack. In one case, if on your screen or your news feed, it's more like cats, dogs doing whatever they do on the internet, or blood, people without hands and arms and everything, your reaction, emotional reaction, will be different. So those big algorithmic machines are the editors of 21st century, not humans anymore. It's like algorithms. And those algorithms are written by some people. But in most of the cases, even those people who write those algorithms now have no idea what they do exactly. Especially with neural networks, especially with what is coming now in the future. Yeah. So, is there any question on? I can really go much longer on this, but I'm really afraid to torture you so much.
Thank you so much. Very insightful. I just had a question, maybe if you could make a bit more explicit the connection between the Facebook algorithm that is the editor of the 21st century and the trolls and the armies that are being hired to sit there and click, 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 click. Because how do the algorithms of Facebook make them surface and not us?
Okay, so because when you are running political party and want to run campaign, you do whatever you can. Okay, so it's kind of limited what you can do. And dream of any of these like political campaign managers, it's to have data that Facebook have. So they do some kind of 20th century methods of propaganda, control, and so on and so on. There are some traces, for example, these Cambridge Analytica stories of like some kind of better use of data, better, okay, more evil, or however we can call that. But this is still just on the surface of the machine. And what is like really, really deeply problematic, it's when the machines start to work for some political. We still don't have like a proof that Facebook deliberately helped one or other site. But if they want to do that, if, for example, the founder of this social network or any other start to run for election, he will have one really powerful machine. Because most of other players are playing on the surface of those networks. But they don't have possibility to be editors of the news as Facebook have. So they're doing whatever they can. And yeah, okay, that's my opinion. Is there any?
Thank you. Yeah, that was very interesting. So do you give any credence to this recent announcement by Facebook that they're going to be more transparent about how political advertising works? Is it possible for them to be more transparent without either revealing the details of their algorithms or exposing their business model?
The problem with algorithmic transparency. So when you Google, when you type on Google algorithmic transparency, most of the posts in the last few years were from different marketing agencies trying to understand how Facebook or Google algorithms work in order to do their marketing better. So in some way, the fact that Facebook, it's not transparent how their algorithms are working, it's protecting us from being misused by, again, from those marketing agents. But still, Facebook is the biggest marketing agencies that exist there, you know. So and I'm really looking forward to this idea of bigger transparency, but I'm really skeptical that this is possible in a way that because the system is so complex that it's really hard to understand which algorithm influence exactly what. So it's not straight A to B. It's much more complex. And again, if we are speaking about neural networks that are again something that is more and more used in such a systems, they are by default black boxes. So you have inputs, you have outputs, and it's really hard to understand what's going on, you know, in between. So I'm really skeptical about any kind of, even if it comes from Mark Zuckerberg, it's nice to hear that from, but I think it's more like some kind of PR strategy from their side to say now, okay, we did some mess. Okay, they didn't do mess by themselves, probably. There was some kind of, they just made mess bigger by allowing different players to interact with our news feeds on different way. So now the problem is, you know, there were some kind of Russian, I don't know, investments in Facebook ads for American elections. Oh, yeah, okay. They're Russian, Chinese, whoever. You know, it's just a question who and when will use this. You know.
What do you see in terms of the prospects for a regulatory system that can stem some of these tendencies? It seems to me your feeling is towards a kind of an inevitability of a non-controllable web. There are advocates of the idea of Pax Technica, so to a multipolarization of regulatory systems somehow converging on some kind of treaty whereby the technologies you mentioned can be controlled. Is this kind of just blue sky thinking in your opinion?
No. You know, in law.
That before, and what a fascinating lecture we've had. I wish most of it went over my head. However, as somebody who has successfully sued Google, I want to ask you what incentive there is for them to obey or subscribe to any form of regulation. They have infinite money and infinite power. Why would they subscribe to a rational, reasonable, non-censorial regulation? I think it is the future. It will have a huge effect on their future behavior. And thank you for coming today.
Thank you. There is still, I think it's still a two-way. There is still some kind of discussion. It's like not vocal. It's more like, because still as a users, we still have kind of chance to use something or not. So for them, it's not just we have enough money now to do whatever we want, and we don't care about public opinion, legislation, users, whatever. So there are ways to deal with that, but I think for the future, there is a lot of trust need to be rebuilt in a way, if we want, because the problem is like we went with the wrong business model from the beginning. And this is like this problem that our society, our part of like this kind of free, open source, and people like promoted like that things should be free online. And because they are free, you have a business models that are not visible. And one of the main business models that out there, it's this surveillance capitalism and nano-targeting. So, and problem that all of those companies need to earn some money, but the problem is the business model, it's not clearly communicated with us, how they make their money. And I think from the European side, we have, we are doing a great job in making their lives really hard. And I think now Google need to pay some 2.some billion or something. And what is really good, there are some kind of discussion, including this one. People are starting to be aware of their position in this mega map, and people will try and want to learn more in the future, because like the problem, like more and more, now we are in some kind of transition period in which probably half of our communication is mediated through technology, but more and more in the future, everything will be mediated by different companies, different machines, and only chance that we have is to try to make those machines more transparent in a way, how they do, what are the business models behind, and I think European Union is doing like a great job in that, probably the best in the world.
Hi, my name is Abram from Bratislava. Well, I must say I have quite a mixed feeling about your presentation. First I saw the big jumps going from one topic to another. It's almost like a seminar for the whole semester. But somehow we should have, or I should have, while listening to you, that we should be so overwhelmed that we should immediately switch off our laptops and everything because there is no escape. And the situation is hopeless. And to me it is more. I'm a political scientist, and the two themes in political science could deal with that. Not that they would have an answer, but these would be, rather than being completely overwhelmed by this structure, the mega structure, which also kind of remind of the 19th century warning that if the train would go faster than 40 kilometers per hour, we will suffocate. And somehow we are in that stage, and then so we should be very careful about that. But in political science, you have a theory of conspiracy, that's your first topic. Then you have Martin Heidegger about technology, how it goes out of place. And then the topic that I don't understand that well, which is about the commercials, about the whole universe of making money out of people's gullible things that they buy something, and then we know that the world runs on it. First, the conspiracy, because when you talk about Serbia, somehow you presented us that actually there was a conspiracy, right? You discovered at the end, but I wonder whether all this, at the end you said that they were just applying for jobs. They wanted to present themselves so what they can harm, and then hence the government would get them. But then I had a feeling that you presented that as if it was all kind of Vukic has all set up, and his people, young people probably in his office smoking, drinking rakia, and then how he win the elections.
No, it's about
and it
sandwiches.
was all conspiracy somehow. That we don't understand, but I have that feeling those trains going 40 miles per hour, and if it goes faster, we will suffocate. But then there's Martin Heidegger, who actually wrote about technology, how it get out of kilter, how it get out of control, how we will never have the ability to really run it. Whether we are capitalists or communists or Trotskyites, it has its own life. It has its own dynamics. We have no idea how it works, and that's what his great warning and you know his literature is there. And this, what you showed about the algorithms and so on, well, of course, they want to make money, and they do anything, any information they need from you to get an extra dollar from you. But it's not the devilish thing, it's just want to make money. And I'll just finish with one thing. I heard a discussion about 15 years ago, when it was still not in internet world. There was this really a technical guy. He said, well, the greatest invention in technology, and listen to this, was the remote control for television. And I thought, he's crazy. And then he started to explain that if you have a television, if you switch, that means that you don't watch that movie, that TV station. So you have to invent a program where you stay to watch the commercial. And hence the whole industry and whole politics has changed. And then it was very fascinating, and then I forgot about that, and you reminded me that tonight. So I wonder whether we are just should be just be completely hopeless, because that was your kind of somehow at the end that they will control us at the end, and then or we should perhaps try to figure out that there is a world that we don't understand. That world has its own dynamics, that it has been discussed in the past by various thinkers, and not to be kind of overwhelmed and be lost and terrified.
But it's a choice to be overwhelmed or not. You know, like it's not, I'm not giving some drugs to hope. So you know, like I don't know. I agree with you on most of the things you said. Just this first part about conspiracy and Serbia, it's really not conspiracy. It's just how it is. It's maybe, you know, once I spent some time with one friend from Sweden, and she told me, you people from like that part, you're kind of, you know, always dark and watch the things from the dark side. And maybe my presentation was kind of coming from this dark side of dark perspective on things. But with all the respect, I really do know that there is like a lot of great thinkers who approach some of the topics and most of the topics that I address here. I really don't think that this is some kind of like completely new thing. And if you try to read some of our text, this is something that we really like to combine most of the time, like some kind of great philosophical points of view from the past, from the present, with something that is like combination of data and technical investigations. And because, you know, when we started to do these kind of maps that are that tried to to create, for example, this map of Facebook. You know, it's completely wrong, probably. But it's the only map that exists out there. You know, and when I think about this is like a map that doesn't have, for example, it's an ancient map, doesn't have United States, you know, America still, it's not discovered, there is no Africa, you know. But still, you know, being on the quest of trying to understand, to go, this is really like going with the you know, light torch in some kind of dark caves. And you see some fragments of something and trying to create some kind of map. And then, if we are into position of being, because I have a chance to be also in academic position, I will probably never publish this, because I will be afraid that it's not so academic. And then on the other side, I will never publish this as well as an investigative journalist, because I kind of break, in some of the research, I break some rules on investigative journalism. So, but to try to explain what is going on there within those algorithms, within those invisible processes, it's not possible just by technical means. You also need to have a lot of, for example, we like to combine media theory and in some cases philosophy, because we cannot explain those black boxes on another way. So I agree with you completely, except this with Serbia and Vučić. It takes a lot of effort to investigate something that is kind of complex, abstract, and not visible. So, yeah.
Hi, I'm also from the dark side, so I share your vision. But I wanted to also ask you about a more optimistic note. Did you identify some forms of resistance to these kinds of trolling and attacking and so on?
But there are a lot of, I think this elections in the United States contributed a lot to this idea of like trolling and fake news and everything became like a top question, you know. And this is somehow good, because this question, I don't know, for example, when this became a question, I was like surprised, because like for us it was like this, you know, for the last, I don't know, 50 years or something. So I was not so shocked by existence of fake news as the people from States or the West were like, oh my God, there is a fake news and someone is producing a fake news. By the way, the guy, it's also like one of the guys is from Macedonia, so it's okay. But there are a lot of, you know, the positive things. For example, there is in Barcelona, there is one independent internet service provider. It's completely like mesh network of people, and we will see, for example, how this will work in context of independence and so on. There are some decentralized social networks that are appearing, but what is like really maybe giving me, there is some other data that is giving me some kind of hope. It's that everything is, most of the things die. So like, for example, the average lifespan of one company is 15 years. And, you know, and also like other social networks that exist before, like Friendster and others, also collapsed in some moment. So we will probably see collapse of Facebook and other like monopoles that exist. In some way they will end, and in some way we will probably build something new. On which basis this something new will be built, it's also based on events like this. How we will, you know, what is the future that we want to create? What are the values of so for the moment I don't see like something, wow, this is going to change the world. But it's natural that something will probably appears. Maybe.
Hello, thank you very much. I'm a Serbian journalist, so I'm pretty much into inside background of what you were tackling before, so thank you very much for this. I just would have a small maybe objection, so correct me if I'm wrong. So you said European Union had a great response towards what is going on with Google particularly, but maybe we should tackle and fight some of the European countries like Luxembourg and Ireland who were allowed in this kind of a situation. So we don't have this like a very sharp answer. Sure. So we have to be aware also what happened before in order to tackle collectively this kind of a problem. So this is just a small objection. On the other side, we had the chance to discuss this kind of an issue with Evgeny Morozov, who is one of the sociologist who is tackling this, let's call it issue and a problem on a collective basis. So my question, maybe you partially replied before, but I was asking to Evgeny, and I will ask you the same question, is whether we are supposed to find the answer on a individual or a collective basis. Shall we try to find like some kind of open sources, or I don't know, GNU revolution of nowadays, or shall we try to find this kind of issue on a collective basis? I can find the free software and I can use it like as an individual, whether it is in response to this kind of war, let's say. Thank you very much.
Yeah, probably some combination of, from my point of view, probably it's some combination of both. I think like as individuals, we need to have support groups. Because, for example, in one moment I tried not to use, I don't know, mobile phone for 6 months, like just to see what will happen. And I don't use Facebook and tra-la-la. But the problem is like when you're stepping out of this monopoly of social interaction and information, the problem, the price, it's really high. And why? For example, first, my wife needed to respond. Everyone was calling my wife except me, you know, because I didn't have mobile phone. So all the pressure was on her. And then, for example, if I need to meet with someone, I was in India, and then I need to meet with some group of people, and all of them need to agree day before because I don't have Viber or whatever, because of me. And then you, as someone who is like not part of this, you are making their lives more hard. So we need to find a way how we can build some solutions that are outside, decentralized, and not to go into this kind of complete disconnection, or on other side, this open source community and everything, and in some moment it was also so radical that it was like putting people off, and it was not so acceptive for different people, and it became also some kind of like closed society. So there are a lot of issues, and probably my answer will be some balance, because I'm Libra in horoscopes, a balance between this like individual and group. I don't know. Is there any more question, or we can go to small?
It might be the ultimate question, and I think you've touched on it. But I'd like to provoke you a bit by asking you whether it is technology that is changing society, i.e. as you say, if you don't use your mobile phone, if you don't have your Facebook account, then you're making everyone else's life difficult. So is it the technology that is changing society, or is it, as I've begun to think, I'm much older than most people in the room, and I've begun to wonder if, as I look at recent elections in America, in Europe, as I look at votes in Britain, and I won't say which, I wonder how much chicken and egg is involved. Is it society and the changes it is undergoing both politically, socially, intellectually, economically? We've never been such a divided and divisive society. So here's the chicken and the egg. Which is changing which? Society is changing and using the technology, or technology is changing society? I hope you don't think it's a trivial question. I think it's quite central.
No, far from that. I'm not so sure that I can give an answer, like because it's chicken and egg. I don't know. I think, you know, many people say, like, so there is this question of for example, do we have a chance to go out from that or not? And the thing is, like, for example, now in United States, you have this policy that the immigration service can check your Facebook account or social media accounts when you are entering into the country. So, and what that means? That means that if you don't have a Facebook account, or are you more suspicious? Is this plus or minus? So, and I really strongly believe it's a minus, because if you don't have that, they are not able to you know, to see who you are and to act based on this information. So the question is, are we really able to step out from this? And is it really voluntary? Because, for example, every time when you apply for a job, they will check your Facebook account or LinkedIn account. And if you don't have one, do you have bigger chances for a job or less chances? Of course, less chances. So there are the moments that then we maybe don't have a choice anymore if we want to make our life more easy. And is it society that thinks technology, or I really don't know. It's a tough one.
I would have more of a comment than of a question. Maybe I will articulate the question by the end of the comment. But this, what you presented now with algorithms, actually reminds me a lot about climate change, which is kind of a irreversible process, which can be very reversible at our expense at one point. And we don't really understand the process, and we can't really predict it. But so that's how this strikes me. What I wondered whether it would be of any use to think about it in that from that perspective, and to think about it as a problem such as a climate change. So to think about the solutions in that vein somehow. I don't know. I don't know if I made it.
There is all of those different research that we did in the last few years. It's like really trying to understand networks, how they work, how different algorithms work, and so on and so on. But now what we are doing in last year or two, it's related to materiality of all of this. And this is like really connected also to the climate change and energy and materials and everything. Because each of those devices that are there, like connecting us, they use some kind of energy, you know? And for example, for sending one email, each email or each step on the internet use some kind of energy. This email need to go from one server to another one, and most of those servers, I think it's 60%, are running on call. And so that means every time when you do something on the internet, you are creating some little hole somewhere in some other part of the world, you know, using some energy, burning some materials. And then another part is like how all of those devices are basically produced from which materials, and somehow I don't know how, it's most of the time in like developing countries in some really strange conditions, like starting from Congo to other different kind of production processes that exist in India, in China, and so on, so on. So behind all of those machines, there are a lot of questions. Question of energy is like, you know, there is like, I don't know how many hundreds of servers processing when you say, hello, Alexa, what time is it? Like trying to understand what you're doing and burning a lot of real energy, you know. And for example, how much is the energy consumption of this, of face recognition? And all of those like different kind of surveillance economy processes, algorithmic processes. No one is thinking about like energy consumption of the algorithm. And okay, probably someone is thinking. But those are also issues that are related, and somehow really, I think we will come really near, because for example, the energy consumption of the data server, of all the data servers in the world are, I think it's more now than this, I don't know, footprint of the plane industry and so on, so on. So we are now coming, really should try to think about like materiality of all of those systems that we build, and that is going to be like really important question for the future, I think. So, yeah. Thank you.